Okay, time for another lens review for the Fuji. Everybody keeps asking me about Samyang lenses, and please God, don't ask me about Samyang lenses because in general I can't recommend them. Just can't do it. Anyway, it's the 8mm f2.8 for the Fuji X mount. It's available in several mounts. It's the same lens marked from Nikon and one other company I can't remember, of no consequence. Made in Korea, not in China, so not Chinese slave labor making these. Now there are two different versions of this lens. This is version 2. It's improved. I knew version 1 had issues. You know, for $266, which is what this lens cost, you know, I have to ask myself, I had to be very, you know, fair and logical in the evaluation of this lens because I'm spoiled. I mean, I'm a total fisheye freak. I mean, I have owned or do own every good fisheye from Nikon ever made. I got AIS fisheyes, 16mm 2.8s. I've got the AI fisheye, 16mm, 10.5 Nikon fisheyes. I love fisheyes, but I'm spoiled on the best, and Nikon does make the best fisheyes. So I was a little too harsh in my criticism of this lens after doing a lot of shots and a lot of you know, checking out on the lens and evaluation. I eventually scored this lens on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, for its range, at about a 7.5. It really does make an 8. You know, I was more critical of it at first, and then I had to step back and make a logical, you know, forethought decision on this particular lens, and I had to score it higher. The output is good. The color saturation is not supreme. At 10mm, it is an exquisite lens. I mean, I have to be honest. I mean, being metal, the construction, the resolution, it does rate a 7.5 to 8. Now, the one thing you'll actually notice a difference on the version 2 is that there's a much larger rear element. The version 1, the rear element is almost half that size, and the large metal base ring is also an indication. They made some serious improvements on this lens since version number 1. Like I said, $260. It comes with an exquisite, far better than even Nikon's own lens caps, and it holds very securely front lens cap for the 10.5. Excuse me, for the Samyang 8mm. It does come with a little quilted, oh, isn't that cute? This is typical of Korean stuff too. Koreans love quilted stuff. For some reason, Koreans have this fetish for quilted things. I've owned a lot of, I have no idea why that is, but I immediately identified that as Korean when I pulled it out. So it does come with a little quilted pouch. Like I said, it's Fuji X mount, $260. I've taken about 300 shots, indoors, outdoors, and was comparing and was very critical of this lens to make sure I made a logical, honest recommendation on the Samyang. I would not, and there are a lot of them. I think 100% of these lenses for sale on eBay right now are all version 1, and they basically look the same. And you can't see the rear element. The rear element is the true giveaway on which is the newer or the old. The one thing I don't like is the fact that the throw on this particular lens, throw from infinity to closest, is too damn far. On a fisheye where you basically have no throw, you know, you go for here at infinity, here at 1 foot. I mean, you've got no throw necessary. The throw is too extensive on the Samyang here. It's about twice as far as it should be. There is a trick to using the Samyang, unlike the Fuji 10.5mm, and this is a superior lens. This is why I was so critical. But this lens used is $450, $400 and a quarter. New, I think it's $900. A 10.5mm fisheye. Difference between 8.5mm in field of view and 10.5, excuse me, 8mm and 10.5 is very negligible. I've got a couple test shots below that'll show you the difference in the field of view between these two. It's next to nothing. The throw is a lot less on this. It's a superior lens, but I mean, $950 new or $900 new, I believe. I think they raised the price on the 10.5mm fisheye. This is a DX crop sensor lens. By the way, I cut this lens. I circumcised it so it does appear as a circular fisheye. I've got a couple of these. One circumcised and one uncircumcised. But, you know, $450 used, even the used price is twice as much, essentially. than the Samyang is. And I would have to use, obviously, a Metabones adapter to use this 10.5mm fisheye on the Fuji. So I've got a lens that, both of these lenses have the exact same profile. Give or take a few millimeters, they're both just as wide, they're both just as tall, but to be able to use it on the Fuji, I would have to add about that much more. Not a big deal. The Metabones adapter is a superior lens. I mean, this is exquisite, but you know, I had to dial back my criticism of the Samyang because I'm so spoiled on the really good stuff. So 7.5 out of 10. I think it's actually an exquisite lens. The one trick on using this lens is that focus peaking is not so hot, regardless of what you choose. It's perfect on the 10.5mm fisheye. Not so hot on the Samyang. And the way to get around that is whatever you want to shoot, focus in with your aperture at f2.8, okay? So I'm going to have it at f5.6 ultimately, or f8. You know, bring it to 2.8 so you can check your focus peaking. Let me stick it in manual mode. There we go. And then I'll stop down to whatever aperture it does I need. Even my hand out here like this too, you got to have some issues because the field of view on this particular lens, even right out here, my hand is actually clipping the bottom left corner of the frame. So perfect. The resolution, color saturation, you know, considering how much, and I know what it takes to produce lens elements, just the fact that the front element on this lens, which is the most time consuming and the most costly to produce, the actual labor and the cost to produce the front element alone, much less the other 9 and build the lens and have a markup retail, the front element alone is $100. I know, at least, for certain. Trust me, it is. The labor, the time, you have to be AR coded, and then it has to be inspected. They were $266, which is what this costs new, and the fact that it's vastly improved in a version 2, I can give this a high recommendation. Even though I rated it 7.5 out of 10, 10 is really way the hell up there. The only thing I'm really rating in a 10 is you know, a few Nikon lenses and a few Zeiss lenses. So 7.5 is an extremely high rating in my book. It might not be in yours. I mean, most people say, oh, this lens is excellent. I give it a 10 out of 10. And I look at people like that and I go, you must not have used many lenses. Which is really the case. You know, there's nobody out there that's using hundreds and hundreds of lenses over decades. But that's fair. I mean, you know, other people have normal stuff to do, like wives and children and normal jobs to take care of. So, but you know, I can give it a high recommendation. And for $260, I do think that it is worth it. Something that's really pissy, I always hated about Nikon, it's the front lens caps are horrible. They don't stay on. There's a lot of people that have dropped their $1,000 fisheyes. The way actual Samyang designed this thing holds on perfectly. You'll never have to worry about it coming off. The aperture ring is a perfect resistance. It's not too much, it's not too little. The throw is a complaint. The throw is too long. From closest to infinity on a wide fisheye like this, from infinity to closest, that's too damn far. They could have actually designed this so the throw on this lens was about half as much as it is. But when it comes to fisheye, 98% of your shots are going to be over 3.5 feet, so it's going to be riding at or near infinity. So as far as what you're going to be focusing on with this lens is more than 3.5 feet, then you're only within a ½ inch range of throw on the manual focus for this lens, of course. And yes, of course, it's a manual focus lens, obviously so. All metal construction. The front lens hood scallops, they are plastic, no big deal there. I think the design, fit, and finish of the lens is exquisite. The output resolution exquisite, and for $260, it is recommended. But please, God, don't ask me about any other Samyang or Nikon lenses, because I can't recommend them, and I really, you know, despite the fact that this lens is a winner, I cannot recommend any Samyang or Nikon lenses. One redeeming factor that I can certainly say about this lens is thank God it's made in Korea, not made in China. It takes a great deal of expertise. I mean, it took Nikon, literally, took Nikon over 50 years to perfect this beauty. The 16mm full-frame fisheye, which I have 3 of, which is ridiculous, a very expensive lens, but it took Nikon 60 years to perfect this. And it's very, very hard to get a perfect fisheye. I mean, the design and the implementation and the creation of a really awesome lens like this with 180 degrees of coverage. Actually, it's more than 180 degrees once you actually clip off, on this lens, clip off the front petals, the front scalloping for the built-in lens hood, which I did with a Dremel tool, by the way. So that's it. It's a Samyang 8mm. And check out the Flickr page for the lens. I'll post that below as well. You take a look at a lot of people's shots, and it's worth it for basically $270. And it's a keeper. Okay? Thanks for watching. If you like this video, drop me a buck or two. Tell me to jump off a cliff. Whatever makes you happy, warm, and toasty. Whatever tickles your pickle. Whatever floats your boat. Let me know. Okay? Bye.